Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Coach Theo. I help women reconnect with themselves, gain clarity, and live more intentionally. And the conversation we're about to have today is probably more for me than anyone else. Because today I want to talk about trusting yourself. So have you ever noticed how easy it can be to help someone else work through a decision? Trust me, I've mastered that. I can listen to what they're saying. I can ask the right questions. And sometimes I clearly see what they need to consider. But when it comes to making a decision in my own life, suddenly everything feels a little more complicated. And I'm sure you may experience the same thing. You start asking yourself, am I making the right decision? What if I get it wrong? What if I disappoint someone? Or maybe you make the decision, but then you continue to question the decision that you made. You replay the conversation in your head. You reconsider all the possibilities. You wonder if you should have chosen something different. Does that sound familiar? If it does, it doesn't mean you aren't capable of making good decisions. It may simply mean that you've become more accustomed to looking outside of yourself for confirmation than trusting what you already know. And that's what I want us to explore today. Many of us have spent a lot of our lives considering what other people need from us. We think about our responsibilities. We consider how our choices will affect the people we care about, right? We try to make the responsible decision, the practical decision, or the decision that will create the least amount of disruption. But how many of you know that sometimes disruption is necessary? There is nothing wrong with considering all of those things I just mentioned. But sometimes in the process of listening to everyone else and to that voice in your head and everything around you, our own voice, your own voice becomes harder to hear. So you may know what you want. We know what we want, but question whether it's reasonable. We may sense that something no longer feels right, but we convince ourselves to keep going. We may even wait for someone else to confirm a decision that we've already made within ourselves. Here's the truth. Self-trust doesn't mean you will always feel completely certain. And it doesn't mean you will always make the perfect decision. And it definitely doesn't mean you will never change your mind. Self-trust means believing that you can make a thoughtful decision with the information you have and that you are prepared and you're ready to handle what comes next. And that last part is what's important. Sometimes we think trusting ourselves means knowing that everything will work out exactly the way we plan. But that isn't really how trust works. That's certainty. And certainty isn't always available. Self-trust is knowing that even if the decision doesn't turn out exactly as you hoped it would, you can reflect, you can learn, you can adjust, and you can continue moving forward. Think about the people in your life that you trust the most. Do you trust them because they are always right? Probably not. You trust them because they are honest with you. Like they tell you the truth. They are consistent. They listen. They follow through. And when they make mistakes, or when they make a mistake, they acknowledge it. The same is true of the relationship you should have with yourself. You strengthen that relationship every time you pause long enough to listen to what you need. Every time you honor one of your boundaries, every time you keep a promise you made to yourself, every time you make a choice that reflects your values instead of automatically following someone else's expectations, self-trust is strengthened, one decision at a time. So how do you begin trusting yourself more? What does that look like? First, you give yourself permission to pause. Not every decision requires an immediate answer. In fact, you probably need to take 24 hours to think about it. Sometimes the most intentional thing you can say is, let me think about it. I need a little time before I decide. It's like when you go to the store to buy something that you want, but you don't actually need. You might say, you know what? Let me take a day and think about this purchase. And then you come back the next day, or you don't go back because you realize you didn't really need it. Same thing here. It's okay to say, I'll think about it. I'll get back to you. That pause gives you time to separate what you generally want, like what you really want, from what you feel expected to do. Second, pay attention to your own patterns. Think about the decisions you've made that felt aligned with what you wanted. And then think about what helped you make those decisions. What did you know about yourself at the time? How did you feel about making the decision that you made? You already have evidence that you can make thoughtful choices. Sometimes you simply need to remember it. You also need to remember when you have not made the right choice. And lastly, stop requiring perfection from yourself. You're going to make decisions that you later reconsider. You are going to learn something new and may decide to take a different direction. That doesn't mean you can't trust yourself. It just means you're human and you're still growing. The goal isn't to get every decision right. The goal is to become more honest with yourself, more aware of what matters to you, and more confident in your ability to move forward. If you've been waiting for someone else to tell you exactly what your next step should be, consider this your reminder to also listen to yourself. The answers may not always be immediately clear. Sometimes they are underneath the noise, the expectations, and all the reasons you've convinced yourself that you should choose something different. So instead of asking, can I trust myself? Try asking, what do I already know that I haven't given myself permission to trust? Sit with that question for a moment. You may discover that you aren't as uncertain as you thought. You may simply need the space and courage to acknowledge what you already know. So, if you're ready to step back, reconnect with what matters most, and gain clarity about your next step, the alignment audit can help. through 3 reflective workbooks focused on awareness, clarity, and action, you'll have an opportunity to examine where you are, identify what may be keeping you stuck, and begin creating a more intentional path forward. You'll find the link in the description below. And before you go, I would love to hear from you in the comments. What is one way you can begin trusting yourself more this week? If anything in this conversation resonated with you or encouraged you, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and share this video with another woman who may need this reminder. Thank you for spending some time with me. And until next time, take care of yourself and keep choosing to live with clarity, courage, and intention. I'll see you in the next video.